So even as I'm a lawyer, my name is Meenu Chandra. I'm essentially a trademark lawyer. A lot of work that I've done in the past is on intellectual property. And to me, cloud was always like, what is this? So I have a better sense today. I've attended some more sessions internally as well. And this is something I think all of us as legal experts are grappling with, the new ways of dealing with issues, for a service that we have to understand the business requirements, and then going forward, advise our clients or our stakeholders as the case may be. So what I'm going to focus on now is an aspect which is we talked about security, and as you saw on the SaaS model, the security really rests with the provider, and Microsoft in this context as a provider needs to have a very strong security. And that's what I'm going to sort of share with you. Before I do that, I'm also sort of looking at how quickly we can use devices that come into play, and we have the Nokia 950 XL, which just came a couple of weeks back, which I've brought here, thanks to Gaurav. And I'm just going to present from that phone everything that I want to talk to you about. So let's see how that experiment goes, because that's an experiment for me as well. So before we really go deeper into what Microsoft is doing, I wanted to understand how you feel about things like cybersecurity, the cybercrime, the frauds, the malware, the hacks. These are the kind of words which are going around in the environment. So any thoughts on what does a malware mean in your own understanding? Anybody? Can you share your thoughts so that we can sort of dwell on what really are we grappling with? Just like cloud, we know viruses and antiviruses. Anybody heard of the term botnet? Yeah. Pragya, of course, is nodding because she probably did some study. In the back? Botnets? Okay. So that gives me the clue, because I was wondering whether I should be explaining a botnet today in this room to a room full of lawyers or not. So what I'll do is I'll start with that very aspect as to what is a botnet. Can we move it this way? Yeah. I think I'll let Gaurav handle this new device, because he's really the one who does all the demos. So I'll just let him open it up for me. So what you see is the Windows 10 environment right from the phone, which has just come in. And you are pretty much navigating it like any laptop that you may have, or a tablet for that matter. And I've just because it's not my own phone, I couldn't have saved it on my OneDrive and transferred it, but because of being a demo. But actually you can do that, explaining botnets. Yeah, actually you can do that. Can I have a clicker, please? Right. So what I'm going to focus on in the first maybe 5 minutes is to actually talk about what are botnets, because I never knew anything about it until I came into Microsoft, into my role, to understand how this happens. And it was quite illuminating for me. Right. So what you see here is a server, which seems like a dark guy. So this is really the organized criminals right now who have decided that stealing or robbing banks is no longer an economical option, or they say, well, the physical world has moved to a virtual world, so let's rob a bank. And he decides, let me get down to the target. He's a very highly technical guy who probably has gone the wrong way, and that's all that is. But he's a very, very technical expert, intellectual, I would suggest. So you've got somebody who decides to commit a crime, which is usually now about stealing information, data being the new currency of the world, and also using that information to commit financial frauds. So how does he do it? You've all received spam mails, right? So he decides to send out lots of spams. Sometimes unknowingly we open them. we've become more and more wary. We, as Microsoft, scan millions of emails while they reach your inboxes for that, and everybody else, other providers as well. But more and more that's happening. But still, a lot of it escapes. You do open them, and when a spam is opened, you are basically getting a malware. A malware is nothing but a program which is written to do something different from what your usual processes are, and what you're getting is like an infection, and that is how it is described, really, that you're getting some kind of infection, like a cold or a cough or a TB or whatever. So there's another way. You could be going to websites. So ICICI Bank, I'm a very old customer of ICICI Bank at a personal level, and I always remember that whenever I used to unknowingly type ICICI Bank, it would go into different sites, because there is a domain name that has been taken by people who are squatting there. So there could be also somebody who decides to create the same website, which is the phishing site, as it's called, fraudulent websites, from where people are being redirected to phishing sites, as they're called, and you get malware all over again. That's another way. Moving on to more, how he's doing it. Unsecure supply chains. So counterfeit CDs that are picked up from most of our hubs here. I think the hub here is, which one, Apurv? Crawford? The hub for counterfeiting? Yeah. So, in Delhi, it's called Nehru Place. So we've got those hubs where you can pick up any particular software. I'm not going to name just mine, but anyone, for 50 rupees, right? And those are what are also having all the infections that we are talking about. So there are multiple ways of getting into a situation where you're all infected. So as you see, what is happening is, in multiple ways, each of these machines have been given a particular program code to do a task which this criminal would like them to do. So what is going to happen is that all these guys are now going to be the slave of the command and control server, which is at the back end, which nobody knows where it is. And the present investigation trends show that a lot of these activities are taking place in the Eastern Europe slash the border where Ukraine and every place are. Reason being, they're highly technical, intellectual talent available there. And the law and order situation is where it is, as you know. So the investigations have sort of pointed to that being one of the areas or regions where most servers are being found. So what's happening now? You've got a lot of stuff in your laptops. Every customer has. And you've got malwares. And this malware, because of this malware, there's a communication going on between the server and all these zombies. Now, what it has become is an army of, and this is millions of computers, because obviously I can't show millions here, but these are millions of computers connected to that command and control server, and are doing things like spam distribution further. So not only are you infected through spam, you become a perpetrator of spam, as your machine will do that on the command of the criminal. And as a result, you see a whole operation being carried out called botnet. And botnet really comes from the word robo on the net. And really, all these zombie computers have become robos for the command and control server. And it's really important to understand what happens here is the fact that without your knowledge, without even your having switched, you're on a standby mode, you're just connected to the internet, that's all you need to be. You are doing something that you don't even know you're doing, okay? Any questions so far? This is a new, I'm hoping, because everybody said they didn't know what a botnet was, it is a new thing. So there's any clarifications so far? Okay, let's move on. So as I said, there is a communication going on, and what Microsoft is doing is working within the MTDS, which is the Microsoft Threat Detection Services, and there's something known as the Microsoft Malware Protection Services. What we are doing is, this is going too fast. Let me just stop it here. What we are doing is working with law enforcement agencies to actually stop that kind of criminal activity. We as a company, right from the year 2002 and even before, thought of how our infrastructure needs to be secure first. So that was the way we started off looking at how we are being affected by malwares and infections, and that really led to a new journey, and where Bill Gates talked about how we need to have security at the center of our products, which means that we need to think about every development and product from a security standpoint. And now most recently our CEO SrAttorney talked about basically our cybersecurity posture and how we are positioning ourselves and how we are keeping everything secure. So what we do here is really work very closely with law enforcement agencies. Once we have the analysis of what's happening on a particular level of command and control server activity, we then go on as a partnership with the law enforcement agencies to various organizations like Interpol, Europol, and many others, and work on these aspects. So what we are really doing, and I wanted to explain why, because a lot of times we have the question as to, first of all, why are we doing it? As I said, we are doing it because first we want to protect ourselves, but while we protect ourselves, because of the kind of customers we have, we end up obviously protecting our customers. So it's not only about us, it is also about our customers and how do we keep them secure. And what we do after that, so once that command and control server is taken down, what we are doing is we create something known as a sinkhole, and this is a technical term. It's basically nothing but a same set of server, which is only a receiver server. So remember the command and control, the communication was two-way. It was sending commands, and the slave was responding to it. But once that command and control server is seized and is behind the bars in the sense that the criminal himself is behind the bars, we have been allowed to put a sinkhole, as we call it, to receive what are those zombies still trying to talk. Because remember, when you cut an infection, the machines have not been cleaned, because that's not in law enforcement's control, that's not in our control, because every machine is itself infected. It's like a disease, right? And you have to go and give the medicine to each machine or each individual to cleanse itself of that infection. So it's the same situation, and as a result, what's happening is these machines which have the infections and do not know that their master is gone, because there is a receiver which is still at least receiving it, they are just pinging and asking, what shall I do next? Or what's the next command? We don't know exactly what is the data in that ping. All we know is that there is a traffic that's coming, which was destined to come for the command and control server and is obviously hitting our sinkhole. And that gives us our ability to really see the kind of threat that we have, and that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And I'm going to show you a visualization of that very data that we receive in a minute. Did it go on standby? It's okay, this is an experiment, as I already said. This is a new device. This is a new team learning to use its own device. No, I don't need this one anymore. If you could just go back to the folder. Yeah. Let's go back. Very quickly. Nitsa, do tell me if I'm running out of time. Yeah. So I've explained, I think the crux was for everybody to understand what is a botnet and how do we work with them, how do we control them. And I'm just going to show you how we are now looking at. Can you open the CTIP power map for me? Last one, please. Yeah. And just play the video when it comes up, because you can do it from the keyboard. So what you see is, as I was saying, this sinkhole is now receiving 70 million pings, which are basically packet data, encrypted data, which is just indicating the IP addresses that are infected. with malware of one sort or the other. So far, since the year 2010, we have taken down 16 botnets. The most recent being taken down last week, called DocBot, which was a Win32 family malware. And it's slow? Yeah, it is a heavy file. It is a heavy file. So what we have done here is to use Power BI. Yeah, just play the video. There's a link in the bottom. Yeah. Just go to the bottom. Yeah. Just play it on the left. Yeah. That's it. Okay. So the bars, the color codes that you see on the left are really the names of the botnets that we have taken down. There are 10 that are being plotted. And this is not Christmas or Diwali in India. This is showing you the extent of traffic that a particular malware is doing at this point in time when this particular data was plotted. And the top is called B106, the yellow pillar that you see. And we are moving to roughly now, and I will come to Delhi. This is Delhi. Delhi has a high infection rate of B106 and Citadel as a botnet. And then we move down to Bombay now. Can you pause there for us? Yeah. So here we are looking at, again, a very similar situation where the yellow being a B106 and the brown being Configure. Both of them are financial botnets. Botnets that were targeting financial institutes. They were only after money, not even information. Information to the extent of passwords. And that's about it. So this is the kind of work we have done so far. And what we have been doing is to make our cloud as secure as a result of the kind of work which is being done as on a 24/7 basis at the back end. Just play it on, and it will carry on to the other cities. Do I have more time? Oh, okay. 2 more minutes, and I'll wrap up. Okay. So probably I'll end up with the final work that we have recently initiated, and we've already talked to the Indian Banking Association about that, is since we have this rich data that we are researching on, and we have IP addresses in that database, we have started talking to our customers, and eventually you might get that query from your IT team or your CISOs that we can actually, if they were to share with us an IP range, a public-facing IP range, which is available also in public domain, we could actually map it with the sinkhole and actually come back to you and talk about this IP address is infected with this particular botnet, and this is the vulnerability you have been facing so far. Mind you, we have taken down only 16 botnets, and there are many more in the internet world. So we are also working hard on discovering more and taking them down. But this is just so that we have an assessment of the vulnerability that exists and get into better practices and look at our systems. So, I mean, if any of you want to go back to have a chat with a CIO or a CISOs in your banks, we are happy to do an exercise with them to find out what are the vulnerabilities if they so desire. Thank you. Any questions before I rush down? Okay. May I invite Mr. Srikanth to share his thoughts with the group here?